Hello everybody, and this is Tazitis. Welcome back to another chapter. Now, I had to repost this and all because unfortunately when I was posting all theirs, I accidentally skipped this chapter, but let's get into it. Oh, hang on, I gotta pause something real quick. That's not important. Okay, let's get into it. The artwork above is mine. It's my own drawing and everything else of what Zach looks like when he's wearing the mask and when he's over there by her area, doing her stuff. Anyway, this is chapter 4. The picture above is my artwork. A couple weeks went by, and our routine started to follow. Crystal had done as Zach ordered her to do and went about her day as though it was normal. But things had really changed. Zach kept showing up in her room a lot more, just as he promised that he would, and he would do so at random times by using the room for all kinds of things. It seemed like every time he came, Crystal's laptop desk had practically become his own working table. Now he had claimed it for himself. Without realizing it or not, Crystal didn't know. Crystal would also have to help Zach with more first aid stuff too, but nothing like his second night. Just scratches and tiny cuts, which Crystal was grateful for. She didn't want to see him hurt like that bad ever again. Crystal couldn't help but be confused by all this. On one hand, she was finally glad to know the truth, or at least some of it. She was also glad to find that she was indeed not crazy and had not made the whole thing up. Not to mention, she felt a little better having the knowledge that she and her family wasn't going to be killed as long as she followed certain rules. On the other hand, it seemed kind of unfair and wrong. Crystal couldn't help but feel conflicted about the whole ordeal. She was torn apart by this. On one hand, it made her feel good that she could be of help to Zach and be his assistant taking care of him, but on the other, he was in her parents' house, using her room for his own dark deeds, and what he did was wicked and wrong on so many levels. But Crystal's biggest question was, one of the biggest questions that Crystal kept coming back to was, had he hurt her? What was he doing? Was what he doing in her room hurting her family? I mean, she thought he might have threatened her to, but that was just about it. While it was true he'd secretly be living in her parents' house without permission, unless you call disappointing them, then no, he wasn't doing anything too evil. Crystal really didn't mind that he had taken her laptop desk for herself. It did just give her insight to see what it was he was working on. Crystal also had to admit to herself that she kind of liked never knowing whether or not, when she got back to her room, he would be there or not. It gave her something to look forward to. Even though Crystal had been told throughout her whole life what a monster Slenderman was, she couldn't help but feel like she just couldn't hate Zach. She just couldn't. She didn't know why. Was this the girl stuff that Zach had talked about? She had become numb to the idea of helping somebody who worked for a monster. Had she become numb to the idea of helping somebody work for a monster? She didn't know that in itself was wrong. What being a good girl is? Somebody who just follows orders and just doesn't think twice about it? But Crystal just felt that Zach himself was not a monster. He was serving somebody who had saved him and given him a home. But in a sense, she didn't really know all that Slenderman had done for him. Could she truly make a clear decision on this matter? Crystal could only go on what she knows for now, and it told her that she should not tell anybody about Zach and continue to help Zach. Crystal was returning home from school and was tired. She was hoping Zach wasn't up in her room so that she could get some homework done and maybe take a nap. She threw her backpack down on the dining room table and was just about to grab herself a snack when she saw there were dishes in the sink that needed to be finished up. Crystal was really tired, but after Crystal had finally managed to finish up on the dishes in the sink, she grabbed herself a snack and she picked up her backpack from the dining table and headed upstairs, hoping Zach wasn't up there so she can get some her time. Crystal had tried to ignore it, but sometimes when Zach would be over at her desk doing something with papers and all, or it would be school test the next day, so Crystal would be on her laptop sitting on her bed making notes on her computer, while occasionally she would see over her computer Zach staring at her from across the room when he didn't think she could see. It didn't really bother Crystal. She wasn't frightened or worried, but she wanted to not have to be annoyed or looked at by Zach, if she could do so respectfully. She walked into the room and looked around. No Zach. Oh, good. She could get some time for herself after all. Crystal walked across the room, throwing her backpack underneath the table beside her bed, and she flung down on the comfortable surface. She thought as she laid there, before she could sleep, she should at least get some of her homework done, at least halfway done first. So she pulled out her laptop and put putting it across her lap, she set to work typing away. She was almost done with one assignment when Zach chose that moment to come into the window. Crystal thought, oh well, so much for sleeping. Zach didn't pay her any mind. He just walked over to the desk with papers in his hand and got to work, putting everything in piles. Crystal put her laptop off to one side and walked over to stand beside him as he worked. Looking at his work, she found she couldn't make sense of a lot of it. It was mostly newspaper clippings and some sorts of files on something or someone, and then maybe a police report about an animal attack of some kind. Crystal just looked down, confused about it. Why was Zach collecting all this stuff? As Zach continued to go through and file everything into piles, Krista found she couldn't help but ask, "What are you doing?" Just checking some things out and trying to find a connection of sorts, love," Zach said, never taking his eyes off what he was doing. Ever since he told her about the truth about that night, he seemed to trust her a little bit more and be more comfortable around her now. She looked a bit more at the papers he was filing away, and she did notice now that some of them seemed to have similar dates or town names. Did you get the local newspaper from your school, as I asked? Zach asked, still not looking at her. "Oh, yes, I did. I almost forgot." "I'm sorry, I did. Yes, I did. I almost forgot." She pulled out the newspaper out of her back pocket and handed it Zach to take. "Wonderful," he said, taking it from her hand and immediately spread it across the table, scanning through it for something. Crystal couldn't help herself but ask, "Is there something I can do to help in any way with what you're looking for? If you don't mind, what are you looking for?" "If you don't mind, what are you looking for?" Zach straightened up and then looked at Crystal, seemingly glad that she had asked. "No, love. I don't think there's anything here for you to help me with today. As for what I'm looking for, it's hard to explain. You just have to know what to look for, and it takes years of practice. But you don't have to worry about there. You'll get there, love." He took her hold of her hands as he finished giving her an encouraging little shake. Crystal couldn't help but feel touched and confused by this. "But what do you mean? Can't you just teach me what to look for? How to see things?" she said as she took the newspaper and flipped it over, not knowing what to look for. Zach grabbed her hand again and pulled her attention away from the newspaper. "Yeah, of course, I'm going to teach you. But it's going to take time, love. We still got time. You've only known about this stuff for less than a week. I don't want to rush you," he said, this kindly matter-of-factly. That Crystal was so matter-of-factly that she was taken aback. As Zach let go of her hands, he turned to the table and tensed up. Poor Crystal, trying to get hold on her thoughts, didn't have time before Zach drew her attention. "Crystal, what's this?" "Crystal, what's this?" Zach asked, sounding odd. He looked down and think, "Oh, that must be the school's paper mixed in with the local one. Why?" she asked, Zach not knowing why all of a sudden he looked so worried all of a sudden. Zach didn't answer. He just kept looking. Crystal looked down confused, trying to read what he was reading, but it was just an article about a string of missing girls over the years and the new theory that it could somehow be linked to the local murders of people in the area and how the killer was never caught. Then the article goes on to explain how every victim had their mouth cut into a smile and their throat slit open, as well as everybody was either burned or had something of theirs burned around their dead bodies. The article then ends on a dramatic warning of everyone being aware of the killer and to be on the lookout. Jeff, Zach muttered under his breath, partly strained, partly angry. Crystal looked up at him. "What?" she said, curious but worried. "Nothing," Zach told her, trying to sound calm and responsible, not to let her worry. "Hey, you should probably start shutting the door and start locking your window, okay? From now on, I mean." Crystal stared at him, but then how will you get in? "Oh, don't worry about that, love." He smiled at her. "I'll just find another way in, no problem. Besides, I could always knock, and you could let me right in." Crystal hesitated and then nodded, wearily. "Yes, of course I will." Zach seemed better at it, but his shoulders were still stiff, very tense. Looking at the paper again, he lifted it up to his face to get a better look at it, but Seema wasn't reading it, just thinking about something while holding it. After a few seconds, he put it back down and quietly said, "Okay, I need to head out now," abruptly, and spin on his heels to the window. You're leaving now?" she asked. "But you just got here." Crystal might have really been wishing for some sleep and some peace and quiet a moment ago, but the way that Zach had looked at that newspaper and now wanted to leave was a bit suspicious. "Oh yeah, I really need to go. yeah, I really need to get back. I really need to get back as soon as I can. But until then, just do what you do and try not to worry about me too much, love. He ended with a wink, but it seemed forced, a bit forced. He was about to jump out the window, but paused. You should really keep this window locked until I return. He turned to give her a strange look, somewhat between stern and worried. Krista was taken aback by this a little, and said nothing, and then he quickly broke the stair, jumped down to the window, and down to the ground. Krista locked it behind him, wondering what could have happened, but the weight of the day upon her came all at once, and she found she just didn't have the energy left to do much more thinking, and decided to just think about it more later. She decided to take a nap now. She had started to not feel very good. Maybe some sleep would help her, she thought. Kicking off her shoes and pulled back her comforters. She got in as she did. She wondered what Zach had meant by telling her that he would just find another way in from now on. But she didn't have much time to think about it, because she was asleep almost before her head even hit the pillow. Okay, that's chapter 4. Sorry, I accidentally did it out of order, but sorry. Also, if my voice sounds a little weird, sorry. I haven't been drinking very much water. Sorry about that. Hopefully that'll clear up and thing. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys like it. If you guys really do like it, please check me out at wattpad.com. The page, my thing, my name on there is Taz1995. The story is A Crystal in the Ruff. The story is not finished. There's about 2 or 3 chapters that and then it'll be done. But as you can see, I want to see if I show you real quick. There's a lot of chapters left. There's a lot. There's at least 30 to 31 chapters left, so we still got a lot to go. So I hope you guys are enjoying this. I hope you guys continue to keep watching and listening to it, and hopefully to go read some of those stories. Hope you guys are liking it, and thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.